Una investigación de la Subprocuraduría Especializada en Delincuencia Organizada y cientos de llamadas telefónicas intervenidas llegaron a las autoridades a un rancho aquí muy cerquita, en el Estado de México. Un rancho con una línea que viene de Sinaloa, ligada nada más y nada menos que a los hijos del narcotraficante Joaquín Guzmán Loera, el Chapo.
Attention. In an unexpected twist that defies all logic, the Mexican army has discovered the enormous palace of Los Chapitos in the state of Mexico. Under a veil of chaos and violence, the operation reveals secrets that dismantle what we thought we knew about drug trafficking. From the early hours of the morning, armed forces unleashed a series of operations that unearthed a bastion of luxury and corruption, hidden in plain sight. The imposing walls of the palace hold not only unimaginable luxuries, but also evidence of criminal activities that unveil a network of power and opulence. Are you ready to face the truth? Before we begin, please like and subscribe. It's free. Now, let's get started. The military operation that uncovered shocking revelations. Just hours ago, a military operation in the rugged region of the Golden Triangle, which spans parts of Sinaloa, Durango, and Chihuahua, culminated in the arrest of 3 individuals associated with Aureliano Guzman Loera, the older brother of Joaquín El Chapo Guzman. Aureliano is one of the leaders of the Sinaloa Cartel faction known as Gente del Guano, GDG. During the operation, Luis N., nicknamed R8, the security chief of El Guano, was also captured after an intense confrontation. This incursion is not the first by federal authorities in attempts to reach the inner circles of El Guano. In 2023, a similar operation led to the arrest of 3 armed men and the seizure of weapons and ammunition linked to the GDG faction. What was discovered during the operation? The discovery of the ranch in the state of Mexico shook the country with a wave of violence and chaos. This place, which at first glance seemed like an ordinary ranch surrounded by avocado and wheat fields, was actually a key piece in the complex drug trafficking network run by the sons of Joaquín El Chapo Guzman. What authorities found inside was far more disturbing than they had imagined. A hidden vault, whose existence was revealed after months of phone surveillance, stored not only money and weapons, but also compromising documents detailing the political and business connections of the Guzman family, revealing betrayals within the cartel itself. With the discovery came a new wave of violence. The cartel, desperate to cover its operations, unleashed a series of attacks in various Mexican cities, seeking to silence those who collaborated with the authorities. Amid this tension, one of the closest allies of the Guzman family, a high-ranking official who had worked in the shadows for years, was betrayed and exposed. The revelations of his betrayal triggered a brutal purge within the cartel, leaving a trail of corpses and plunging drug trafficking operations into an internal crisis. The mountains surrounding the ranch, once peaceful, became the scene of bloody clashes between hitmen and security forces. The traffickers, who know every nook and cranny of the terrain, used all-terrain vehicles to ambush authorities, while the ranch and its vault became the epicenter of a power struggle within the cartel. Betrayals, revelations, and a spiral of violence marked a turning point in the war against drug trafficking, but also made it clear that the Guzman influence remains present and deadlier than ever. This revelation, which began with the simple interception of calls, unmasked a network of corruption and violence that spans not only Mexico, but much of Latin America. The coming days will determine whether this finding is a mortal blow to the cartel or, conversely, the prelude to a new and bloodier phase in the history of drug trafficking. In the apparent calm of those mountains, an empire of violence lay hidden. Although the property appeared to be a simple rural cabin of less than 10 square meters, its modest facade concealed an intricate labyrinth of secrets. The mountains, strategically chosen by drug traffickers, offered not only isolation, but also absolute control over the terrain. The narrow, overgrown paths ensured that any intruder faced relentless surveillance, where a mistake could mean death. the clandestine operations taking place, they were not just about drug trafficking, they were the epicenter of a silent war between rival factions, each fighting for control of the region. Betrayals were as common as the wind hitting the slopes. Former allies turned into enemies in the blink of an eye, and loyalty pacts were broken as easily as silencing a snitch. A network of tunnels beneath the property connected secret laboratories, where not only drugs but also revenge were concocted. Revelations about infiltrators and corrupt alliances with local authorities added a constant tension. Those who thought they could escape the watchful eye of the cartel leader found themselves betrayed by their own comrades, thrown into the rugged terrain to never be seen again. Every night, the sound of crackling radios and whispers of communication through the Wi-Fi network was interrupted by distant gunfire or silent explosions in the distance. The testimonies of those who were present in that underworld reveal a landscape of fear, betrayal, and desperate survival, where each word is a grim confession of what they endured under the cartel's tyranny. Testimony 1. A former tunnel engineer now in protection. When I was hired to work on the construction of the tunnels, I thought they would only be escape routes. I never imagined what was really being cooked down there. It wasn't just drugs. The walls of the laboratory echoed with whispers of revenge. The cooks eyed each other warily, fearing that one of them would be the next to disappear. Once I saw a man, a trusted colleague, dragged away by 2 hitmen. I heard him plead for his life before they threw him into a pit deep in the tunnel. No one came back from those places. The boss knew everything, every move, every word we said. Those who thought they could flee never lasted long. The ranch in La Boca was a ticking time bomb, an epicenter of chaos and violence waiting to be uncovered. Behind the peaceful green crops lay a dark empire, dominated by fear and betrayal. Are things really that dire nowadays? The cartel controlled every corner of the ranch, but what no one knew was that its foundations were shaking from within. The arrival of shipments from Sinaloa not only brought drugs, but also conflicts. The factions within the cartel, led by El Chapo Guzman's sons, began to distrust each other. Alliances that were once unbreakable started to crumble when internal betrayals were revealed. One of the most trusted men had sold key information to the authorities, and no one knew who the traitor was. The June operation by the Subprocuraduría was just the beginning of the collapse. Although they seized tons of drugs, the real blow came when authorities discovered a ledger hidden within the ranch's walls, detailing not only the distribution routes but also the names of politicians and police officers bought by the cartel. These revelations unleashed a wave of executions inside and outside the ranch, as the leaders tried to erase any trace of their corrupt connections. Between January and May of the following year, as the Criminal Investigation Agency dismantled more cells, the ranch became a battleground. Internal battles, an unprecedented toll of murders. The Guzman brothers fought among themselves for control of operations, while hitmen, under conflicting orders, spread terror on the streets of the Valley of Mexico. No one was safe. Not even the families who had lived near the ranch for decades, who found themselves caught in the spiral of violence emerging from the bowels of La Boca. What appeared to be a simple farm turned out to be a monster hidden in plain sight, where revelations mingled with bloodshed, and where each day was a struggle for survival in a world dominated by greed and power. The investigation revealed a dark web of betrayals and violence, where each step toward the truth unleashed a new wave of murders. Pancho, the ruthless leader of the organization, had built an empire based on fear and corrupt loyalty. However, what the wiretaps revealed was much more sinister than investigators had expected. Chepe, his right-hand man, was in contact with undercover agents, selling valuable information in an attempt to ensure his own survival. He betrayed Pancho, negotiating his exit in exchange for strategically turning over his own associates. The intercepted calls revealed internal tensions. Chepe and Pancho argued about the security of the shipments, but in those conversations, a backdrop of mutual distrust was palpable, ready to explode. The isolated ranch where they hid the drugs became an invisible battlefield, with exhausted guards and growing paranoia. No one was sure who was an ally and who could betray them at any moment. The controversy escalated when Ricardo El Franco, the former police officer, was exposed not only as a facilitator of drug trafficking, but also as a double agent, working for both Pancho and a rival faction. His loyalties shifted depending on who offered more protection or money, and his double game was about to come to light in the worst possible way. When Pancho learned of the betrayal, a violent confrontation erupted at the ranch, resulting in the deaths of several group members, further exposing the fragility of the organization. Local authorities, corrupted and complicit with the cartel, were on the brink of collapse when the Attorney General began investigating their connections to the criminal group. Reports surfaced implicating high-ranking police officials who not only covered up operations but also profited from them. Fear reigned as those implicated began to disappear or were executed in internal reprisals. The downfall of Pancho and his network was not only a blow to drug trafficking but also a reminder of the destructive power of betrayal. If you're enjoying this video, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more similar content. The ranch in honor of Edgar Guzman is not just a luxurious property. It is a symbol of power and legacy in the dark world of drug trafficking. Behind its imposing security walls and constant surveillance lies a realm marked by violence, betrayal, and family secrets. Over the years, the Guzman family has built these refugees as fortresses, not only to protect themselves from authorities, but also to plan the bloodiest moves in their fight for control of the drug trade. In this place, Edgar's death left not only an emotional mark on his father, but also revealed the fragility of loyalty within cartels. His enemies, who were once allies, betrayed him, and his assassination became the catalyst for a wave of violence that shook Sinaloa. But how did Chapo respond to this? Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, blinded by revenge, responded with brutality, unleashing hell on the streets as he sought those responsible. In secret, his men captured the traitors, subjecting them to unimaginable torture before making their bodies disappear deep within the grounds of their ranches, places where justice and law have no place. The arrests of El Chapo's sons, such as Ovidio Guzman, have revealed much more than the family's illegal operations. Within these residences, federal forces have discovered not only weapons and drugs, but also records of bribes and connections with corrupt authorities among cartel leaders. These discoveries unleashed an internal war for power, as former allies turned into enemies. Griselda Lopez Perez, the mother of Ovidio, has found herself caught in the midst of this war, her home constantly watched and attacked by those seeking control. In Jesus Maria, where the tranquility of the small town was brutally interrupted by Ovidio's arrest, rumors of deeper betrayals within the Guzman clan circulate. The cruel murder of Edgar Guzman, son of El Chapo, secrets come to light. Some whisper that the very blood of the family may have contributed to the arrests in a desperate attempt to secure leadership of the empire that El Chapo left behind after his fall. The ranch, that apparent oasis of tranquility in the desert, became a scene of blood. What seemed like just another secluded corner of society actually hid darker secrets than anyone could have imagined. The death of Edgar Guzman Lopez, shrouded in a fog of uncertainty, opened a door to shocking revelations that shook the foundations of the family empire. The 500 bullets fired on that fateful day not only claimed the life of a 22-year-old young man, but triggered a chain of betrayals that would put the most powerful on edge. While some pointed to the Beltran cartel as the masterminds behind the murder, others whispered that the order had come from closer, too close. Could his own father, El Chapo, have played a role in his son's death, motivated by internal tensions and power struggles within the cartel? The rumors created a crack in the seemingly impenetrable structure of the Guzman family, unleashing a wave of suspicion and vengeance. How could a father accustomed to pulling the strings of drug trafficking lose control in such a tragic way? Or was it all part of a macabre power play, a necessary sacrifice amid a conflict for control of the territory? Testimony from a former hitman of the cartel. I never thought I would see the old man cry. I've seen him shoot traitors in cold blood, order massacres without blinking. But that day, it was as if the weight of the world came crashing down on him. They found him sitting alone without his guards, staring at a photo of his son. No one dares to say it out loud, but in the dark corners, the whispers are clear. Was it his hand that moved the pieces of this tragedy? El Chapo had the power to decide who lived and who died. But his own son. Some believe it was a mistake, an order that got out of control. But others say he knew everything from the beginning. The violence did not stop with Edgar's death. It was followed by an escalation of brutality that affected not only those directly involved in drug trafficking, but also the impoverished nearby communities caught in the crossfire. The locals began to live in fear, watching as the luxurious properties that stood out as symbols of power amid poverty also became epicenters of death and betrayal. The ranches, used as safe havens, filled with tension. The mansions, once seen as fortresses of impunity, turned into gilded cages for those who lived in them, surrounded by advanced technology, but always on the brink of collapse. Betrayal became common currency among those who once shared the table of power. Did the situation worsen even further? Hitmen, once loyal, began to move for hidden motivations, with conflicting interests. Documents were revealed, intercepted communications exposing networks of corruption that involved not only drug traffickers but also politicians and high-ranking government officials. The chaos intensified when it was learned that some of the luxurious properties of the Guzman family were being used by the government for clandestine operations, demonstrating a deep collusion that further soured the atmosphere of violence. The enemies were no longer just outside. They were within, and no one knew who would be the next to fall. The ranch, once picturesque and peaceful, transformed into the epicenter of an unstoppable storm, where blood, betrayals, and dark secrets intertwined, making it clear that, in this world, the line between loyalty and betrayal was as thin as a missed shot. In the heart of Mexico, the properties of drug traffickers stand as silent witnesses to a realm of violence and treachery, where splendor and decay coexist in a strange paradox. These mansions, cloaked by vegetation and the scars of violence, tell hidden stories of power and fear, where stray bullets have left their mark on walls that once shielded the unrestrained luxury of their owners. Under the mandate of Andrés Manuel López Obrador, the public exposure of these confiscated assets opened a dark door to the underbelly of organized crime. Mansions like Los Tres Garcia, owned by Carlos Montemayor González, father-in-law of the infamous Edgar Valdez Villarreal, La Barbie, became monuments to corruption and terror. The vastness of the ranch, its Palenque auditorium intended for private events where criminal alliances and betrayals were woven in secrecy, is now an empty echo of what was once a sanctuary of illicit power. The Rancho Leonero, located in picturesque Baja California and owned by the violent Francisco Javier Arellano Felix, El Tigrillo, is another symbol of how violence seeps even into the most paradisiacal corners. Behind the walls of this beachfront mansion, dark secrets were unveiled: silent tortures, clandestine meetings among drug lords, and the creation of power networks that controlled drug routes along the Mexican coasts. What for some was a paradise of sand and sun, for those involved in this world was a battlefield where loyalties could change in a matter of seconds. Betrayal, a constant in the drug trafficking world, was also reflected in the fate of properties linked to the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, CJNG, particularly those of Raul Flores Hernandez, alias El Tío. Despite government attempts to liquidate their assets, the houses in Cuernavaca and Jutepec remain in limbo, trapped between fear and oblivion. No one dares to buy them, not for lack of interest, but due to the lingering fear of reprisals. The shadows of the former owners still haunt these places, where unspeakable acts of violence were committed and blood pacts were sealed. Potential buyers are aware that owning one of these properties could make them the next target of those still loyal to the drug traffickers. This world of overflowing wealth and accelerated decay is, at the same time, a testament to how drug trafficking destroys not only lives, but also the symbols of its own success. In contrast, ostentation and extravagant celebrations have always been an integral part of the lives of drug trafficking leaders. One example is the appearance of a ranch associated with the children of Joaquin El Chapo Guzman in the state of Mexico. Narcotics laboratories, where money is made. This practice is common among drug traffickers, who use hidden properties in remote and hard-to-access locations. These hideouts and laboratories, often situated in wooded or mountainous areas, allow them to operate in secrecy and evade law enforcement surveillance. Like El Chapo, drug traffickers create these hideouts to store drugs, plan their activities, and stay away from the law. The properties confiscated over time have revealed not only the scale of their operations, but also the luxury and security that these places offer. From opulent mansions to more modest ranches with strict security measures, these hideouts are designed to protect both cartel leaders and their illegal activities. But what has the Mexican government done to stop this? The Mexican government has conducted several operations to confiscate ranches and properties linked to El Chapo, his sons, and collaborators. These seizures have revealed the infrastructure of drug trafficking in Mexico, including large land holdings, advanced surveillance systems, and private auditoriums. The intention is to dismantle criminal networks and demonstrate the government's authority. Although the fear of retaliation remains an obstacle to selling and repurposing these properties, reflecting the power of criminal groups. President Andrés Manuel López Obrador has been accused by the U.S. government of possible ties to drug trafficking. Although he has insisted that these allegations lack evidence, Obrador has demanded a public apology from the U.S. government if no evidence is presented, arguing that his moral authority must be respected. A recent journalist consulted the U.S. Department of Justice, which confirmed that there is no ongoing investigation or evidence. But Obrador rejects this response and demands concrete proof. Furthermore, he has questioned President Biden about the leak of information related to his administration and finds it suspicious that the issue has gained electoral relevance in Mexico. The war between Mayito Flaco and the Chapitos for control of the Sinaloa Cartel, the recent wave of violence in Culiacan, provoked by clashes between the followers of Ismael Zambada Siqueiros, alias El Mayito Flaco, and the faction of Guzman Salazar, has significantly escalated. This struggle for control of the Sinaloa Cartel has caused numerous casualties among criminal groups, security forces, and civilians. The conflict intensified following the capture of Ismael El Mayo Zambada on July 25th, generating large-scale fighting affecting several areas of Culiacan and its surroundings. On September 11th, Mexican soldiers were ambushed, resulting in the death of one soldier and leaving another injured. Hours later, another attack on a road south of Culiacan left one civilian dead. The violence reflects the chaos in northwestern Mexico, exacerbated by the cartel's internal struggles. The situation has generated local and international concern, with clashes also reported in El Salado and Navolato. The capture of Zambada and Joaquin Guzman Lopez, the son of El Chapo, has fragmented the cartel into rival factions, with Los Chapitos and La Mayiza vying for control. Among El Mayito Flaco's allies are Rafael Guadalupe Felix Núñez, known as El Changuito Antrax, and José Ángel Rivera Sazueta, El Flaco. These supports have strengthened Zambada Siqueiros in his fight against Los Chapitos, who seek to consolidate their power following the fall of their father. The conflict continues to spread, with violence increasingly affecting more areas and complicating efforts to restore order. In the current conflict within the Sinaloa Cartel, the La Mayiza faction, led by Ismael Zambada Siqueiros, known as El Mayito Flaco, faces off against Los Chapitos, led by Ivan Archivaldo and Jesus Alfredo Guzman Salazar. The arrest of Ismael El Mayo Zambada and Joaquin Guzman Lopez shook the foundations of Mexico's criminal underworld, creating a massive power vacuum in one of the most dangerous and influential cartels in the country. With the old leadership behind bars, the once stable balance of power within the cartel dissolved, leading to an intense and bloody struggle for control of the lucrative drug trafficking routes that extend deep into Mexico and across international borders. At the center of this chaos is El Mayito Flaco, son of El Mayo Zambada, who has steadily risen through the ranks. Unlike many others in the cartel, he has shown a remarkable ability to navigate the treacherous internal politics and brutal rivalries that define the Sinaloa Cartel's operations. To solidify his position in the power struggle, El Mayito Flaco has forged key alliances with two critical figures: Rafael Guadalupe, Felix Núñez, also known as El Changuito Antrax, and José Ángel Rivera Zazueta, nicknamed El Flaco. El Changuito Antrax, a name that strikes fear into the hearts of many, is infamous for his role as an enforcer. His reputation for extreme violence and loyalty to the Antrax faction, a notorious hit squad within the cartel, makes him an essential asset in El Mayito Flaco's strategy. El Changuito's brutal tactics ensure that rivals think twice before challenging their territory, making him an indispensable figure in this deadly contest for dominance. On the other side of the operation is El Flaco, who plays a far less visible but equally critical role. While El Changuito maintains order through violence, El Flaco is responsible for the cartel's logistical backbone. He oversees the smooth flow of drugs, money, and weapons, ensuring that the Sinaloa Cartel's vast network remains operational. His control of key territories, including Mexico City, gives him immense influence, and his international connections are vital for maintaining the flow of narcotics to the United States and other global markets. These alliances have proven crucial in strengthening La Mayiza, the faction led by El Mayito Flaco, as they battle against the faction of Los Chapitos, led by the sons of the infamous El Chapo Guzman. After their father's imprisonment, Los Chapitos rapidly expanded their influence, fiercely determined to maintain the Guzman family's legacy. Their control over strategic territories has grown, making them formidable opponents in this bloody war for supremacy. As this power struggle unfolds, violence has erupted in key areas, most notably in Culiacan, the cartel's stronghold. The streets of Culiacan have witnessed some of the most brutal clashes, with both sides employing heavily armed groups to assert control. The violence has spread to other regions, threatening not only the safety of local populations, but also the stability of Mexican governance in these territories. The Mexican government and law enforcement agencies face an almost insurmountable challenge in containing the violence. The cartels operate with military precision, using advanced weaponry, encrypted communications, and a deep understanding of the political landscape. Their influence runs so deep that local officials are often powerless or too afraid to intervene, and corruption within the police and military has further complicated efforts to restore order. The sophistication of both factions, combined with their international ties and massive financial resources, makes it difficult for authorities to dismantle their operations. Even with the leaders imprisoned, the cartel's decentralized structure allows it to continue functioning, with new leaders emerging to fill the void. The future of the Sinaloa Cartel remains uncertain as this internal war rages on. While El Mayito Flaco and Los Chapitos continue their bloody contest for dominance, the collateral damage grows, leaving communities devastated by violence and fear. The cartel, once unified under the leadership of El Chapo and El Mayo, now faces a turning point. Whether a new dominant leader will emerge or the cartel fractures further remains to be seen. But one thing is clear. The road to peace in these regions will be long and fraught with danger. As the dust settles from this ongoing battle, the future of Mexico's drug trade hangs in the balance. The stakes are higher than ever, with billions of dollars, entire cities, and the lives of thousands on the line. If you've made it this far and enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like, subscribe to our channel, and activate the notification bell to receive updates on future videos on YouTube. Also, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments.